My daughter brought a nursing home brochure to Sunday brunch and slid it across the table like she was offering me dessert. I smiled, reached into my purse, and placed a red and white sold sign beside it, the one meant for her apartment. For 3 seconds, nobody at the table moved. Not the waiter refilling coffee. Not my granddaughter Lily with her fork halfway to her mouth. Not my daughter Ashley, whose polished smile had been sitting on her face all morning like expensive paint over rotting wood. I had known something was wrong the moment she invited me. Ashley did not usually call me for brunch. She texted when she needed something, sent short replies when I asked about Lily, and visited my house only when she wanted to borrow my stepladder, my good casserole dish, or a little money to get through the month. But that Sunday morning, her voice had been bright and careful. "Mom, I made reservations at Brochure and Bloom for 11. Just family. I think we need a nice talk." A nice talk. At 68 years old, I had learned that people rarely announce a nice talk unless they are preparing to say something ugly. Still, I went. I wore my cream cardigan, the pearl earrings Henry bought me for our 40th anniversary, and my wedding ring, even though Henry had been gone almost 2 years. The restaurant sat in the nicer part of Charlotte, all white brick, hanging ferns, brass light fixtures, and little glass jars of sugar on every table. The kind of place where toast cost $9 because someone sprinkled sea salt on the butter. Ashley was already there when I arrived, seated with her back straight, her blonde hair smooth around her shoulders, her phone face down beside her water glass. Across from her sat Evan, her almost ex-husband, looking uncomfortable in a blue button-down. Lily sat beside him, 16 and quiet, her eyes softening when she saw me. There was also Claire, Ashley's friend from yoga or real estate or whatever circle of women made her feel important that year. "Mom," Ashley said, rising just enough to air-kiss my cheek. "You look sweet. Not beautiful. Not good. Sweet. Like a pie cooling on a windowsill. Like something harmless." I sat down, folded my napkin in my lap, and ordered coffee. The first few minutes were perfectly ordinary. Ashley asked about my garden. Evan asked if my water heater was still making noise. Lily told me she had gotten an A on her history paper. I let myself enjoy that part, just for a moment. Then the waiter set down the Eggs Benedict, and Ashley reached into her tote bag. She pulled out a glossy brochure with a smiling silver-haired couple on the front, standing in front of a building that looked more like a resort than a place where families put people they no longer wanted to visit. She placed it in front of me and tapped it twice with one manicured finger. "Mom," she said gently, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think it's time we talk about your future." I looked at the brochure. Then I looked at my daughter. Her mouth was soft, but her eyes were already celebrating. Ashley did not ask whether I wanted to see the place. She did not ask how I had been sleeping, whether I felt lonely, whether the stairs in my house bothered my knees, or whether I had enough help with the yard. She opened the brochure as if the matter had already been settled and turned it toward me with 3 yellow tabs sticking out from the pages. "It is beautiful, Mom," she said. "They have a library, a walking path, art classes, and a shuttle that takes residents to the grocery store twice a week." Residents. That word landed quietly, but it landed hard. I took a slow sip of coffee so my hands would have something to do. The cup was warm, smooth, expensive. I remember noticing a tiny chip near the rim and thinking how strange it was that a restaurant like Brochure and Bloom would serve coffee in a damaged cup while my daughter sat across from me pretending she was not trying to package me away. Claire leaned forward with the careful smile of someone who had been invited to witness a kindness. "My aunt moved into a place like that in Raleigh," she said. "It gave everyone so much peace of mind." Everyone. Not her aunt. Everyone. Evan stared down at his plate and cut the same piece of toast 3 times without eating it. Lily looked from the brochure to my face, her eyebrows pulled together. She knew I still drove myself to church every Sunday. She knew I carried my own groceries, trimmed my own rose bushes, and walked half a mile every morning unless it rained. Ashley knew it too, which made the performance worse. "I am not sure I understand," I said, keeping my voice soft enough that the couple at the next table would not turn around. Ashley reached over and patted my hand. She had not held my hand in nearly a year. You do not have to be embarrassed. This is normal at your age. At my age, 68, not 98. The house is too much for one person, she continued. You have all those rooms, the yard, the bills, the repairs. It is not safe. And honestly, Mom, it is stressful for all of us. That was when I understood why Claire was there. Why Evan had been told to come. Why Lily had not been warned. Ashley wanted an audience, but not a loud one. She wanted quiet pressure. She wanted witnesses who would make me feel rude if I disagreed. The waiter came by to ask if everything tasted all right, and Ashley smiled up at him like we were discussing vacation plans. Everything is wonderful, she said. Then she turned back to me and lowered her voice just enough to sound tender. We love you too much to let you keep living in denial. I looked at my daughter's perfect nails resting beside that brochure, and I saw the truth hiding under her polished concern. This brunch was not an invitation. It was a trap with linen napkins. The word denial stayed with me longer than it should have. I had heard that word before, not from doctors or neighbors or anyone who had actually spent time with me, but from Ashley. She had been using it for months, dropping it into conversations like crumbs, leading everyone toward the same conclusion. Last Thanksgiving, when I forgot to bring the cranberry sauce from the refrigerator, she laughed too loudly and said, Mom has been forgetting little things lately. It was one bowl of cranberry sauce. I had cooked the turkey, made the dressing from Henry's mother's recipe, baked 2 pies, set the table for 9, and remembered that Lily liked sparkling cider instead of soda. But Ashley turned one forgotten dish into a warning sign. At Christmas, she told our pastor's wife that I was slowing down, while I stood 6 feet away carrying a tray of cookies I had made from scratch. In January, she insisted on taking a spare key to my house in case of emergencies, then used it twice without calling first. Once, I came home from the grocery store and found her in my kitchen, sorting through a drawer where I kept old bank statements, insurance letters, and Henry's handwritten notes about household repairs. She smiled when I walked in. Just helping you organize, Mom, she said. Paperwork can get overwhelming. I wanted to believe her then. Mothers are talented at dressing up disappointment until it looks like hope. I told myself Ashley was worried. I told myself she was under pressure from the divorce. I told myself money made people nervous, and nervous people sometimes became careless with tenderness. But sitting in that restaurant, with the brochure open between us and Ashley's finger circling the monthly price as if she were choosing a cable plan, every little moment rearranged itself in my mind. The way she had asked whether my house was fully paid off. The way she had mentioned that South End property values were climbing. The way she had sighed when I said I planned to keep Henry's workshop exactly as he left it. Mom, you cannot live in a museum forever, she had told me. But it was not a museum. It was my home. It was the place where Henry measured Lily's height on the pantry doorframe, where Ashley learned to ride a bicycle in the driveway, where I planted hydrangeas the spring after my mother died because I needed something living to look at. Ashley was not seeing memories. She was seeing square footage. Across the table, she kept talking about safety and simplicity, but her eyes kept drifting to the folder beside her plate. I noticed it then. A second folder, thicker than the brochure, cream-colored, with a metal clip at the top. My name was written on the front in Ashley's neat handwriting. Not Mom. Not Margaret. Margaret Whitaker. Like a case file. I set my coffee down carefully. What else did you bring? I asked. Ashley's smile tightened for the first time. Evan stopped cutting his toast. Lily looked at the folder, then at me. Claire suddenly became very interested in her mimosa. Ashley placed her palm over the folder as if she could make it disappear by covering it. Just some options, she said. Nothing for you to worry about yet. Yet, that small word told me everything. She had not come to begin a conversation. She had come to move me to the next step. The cream-colored folder did not belong at brunch. It sat beside Ashley's plate like a quiet accusation, too formal for coffee and hollandaise sauce, too prepared for a daughter who claimed she only wanted to talk. I looked at it, and suddenly I was no longer in that bright restaurant with ferns hanging from the ceiling and soft jazz playing near the bar. I was back in my kitchen 3 weeks earlier, standing barefoot on the cold tile while rain tapped against the window over the sink. That was the morning I found the first brochure in my mailbox. It had arrived in a plain white envelope with no return address, folded around a business card from a senior living consultant named Denise Palmer. I remember staring at it while my oatmeal cooled on the counter. At first, I thought it was junk mail. People my age get those things all the time. Medicare plans, hearing aids, walk-in tubs, retirement communities with smiling couples who never seem to have dust on their shelves or grief in their hearts. But this one had my name printed inside. Margaret Whitaker. Tour requested for early March. I had not requested anything. I called the number on the card, and Denise sounded surprised when I told her who I was. "Oh," she said, shuffling papers on her end of the line. "Your daughter said she was helping you explore options." There it was again. Helping. Such a soft word for taking control. I thanked Denise, hung up, and stood very still for a long time. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator humming and the rain tapping the glass. Henry's coffee mug was still on the second shelf, the blue one with the small chip near the handle. I had not been able to move it after he passed. Ashley said that proved I was stuck. I said it proved I had loved someone for 45 years. That morning, I opened the drawer where I kept our important papers and checked everything. Date, insurance, bank records, the agreement for Ashley's apartment. I read that last one twice, then a third time. Henry had insisted on the wording when we helped Ashley buy the South End place after her business failed. "Love her," he told me, sitting at the dining room table with his reading glasses low on his nose. "But do not hand her a match and call it shelter." He was not cruel. He was careful. The apartment had been purchased through a family trust, with Ashley allowed to live there as long as she made her agreed payments and did not attempt to pressure me for additional assets. At the time, I thought Henry was being too cautious. Now, sitting across from my daughter while she guarded that folder with her hand, I realized he had seen the road long before I reached it. Ashley cleared her throat. "Mom, you are making this feel more dramatic than it needs to be." I smiled gently. "Am I?" She glanced at Claire, then at Evan, trying to gather support without asking for it. "We are just trying to be responsible." I looked at the folder again. "Then open it." Her fingers stiffened. "There is no need to do that here." "You brought it here," I said. My voice stayed calm, but something in it made Lily sit up straighter. Ashley's face changed by a fraction. Not enough for a stranger to notice, but enough for a mother. The sweetness thinned. The daughter disappeared. The planner remained. Ashley opened the folder slowly, the way people open curtains when they already know the room behind them is a mess. The first page was a printed cost sheet from the senior living place, with sections circled in blue ink. Monthly rent, meal plan, medication reminders, transportation fee, memory care add-on. That last one made my eyes pause. I had never been diagnosed with memory problems. I had never missed a bill, never gotten lost driving, never left the stove on, never forgotten Lily's birthday or Ashley's middle name or the day Henry died, though I sometimes wished grief would be kind enough to blur that one. "Memory care?" I asked. Ashley tilted her head with the soft, practiced pity she used when she wanted to make me feel unreasonable. "It is just listed as an option, Mom." "An option for whom?" She looked around the table, and I could almost see her measuring how much truth she could safely admit. Claire folded her napkin. Evan leaned back in his chair. Lily's face had gone pale in that quiet teenage way, when a child realizes adults have been speaking in code around her for too long. Ashley tapped the page. "Nobody is saying you need that now, but we have to plan ahead." I turned the next sheet myself before she could stop me. There was a list of suggested home preparations. Sell unnecessary furniture. Donate duplicate kitchen items. Arrange estate sale. Consult real estate agent regarding primary residence. There it was, buried under polite language. My house. Not my safety. Not my loneliness. Not whether I wanted art classes or a shuttle to the grocery store. My house. I read the line twice, then looked at my daughter. "You already spoke to a real estate agent." It was not a question. Ashley's mouth parted. "I only asked for general information. About my home." About options, she corrected quickly. That was one of Ashley's talents. She could take something sharp and wrap it in cotton until people forgot it could cut. You live alone in a 4-bedroom house, Mom. It does not make sense. I thought of Henry's workbench in the garage, still smelling faintly of cedar and motor oil. I thought of the pantry doorframe with Lily's height marked in pencil from age 3 to 12. I thought of the guest room where Ashley slept after her first big breakup, crying into one of my old quilts while I sat beside her until 2 in the morning. It made perfect sense to me. It simply did not make money for her. And who would handle the sale? I asked. Ashley's eyes flickered. We could help you. We. She reached for her water glass. Me. Evan, if needed. I mean, it would be easier than you dealing with all that paperwork by yourself. Evan finally looked up. Ashley, he said quietly. One word. Not a warning exactly. More like a man seeing the edge of something and wishing he had stepped away sooner. She ignored him. Mom, this is why I wanted to do this in a calm setting. You get defensive when we talk about practical things. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I could hear Henry in my memory saying, when someone calls greed practical, Margaret, check your purse. I reached into that purse then, but not for the sign. Not yet. My fingers brushed the envelope Martin Caldwell had given me the day before. Martin had been Henry's attorney for 27 years. A patient man with silver eyebrows and a voice so steady it could make bad news sound manageable. When I brought him the brochure from my mailbox and the apartment agreement, he read everything without interrupting. Then he took off his glasses and said, Margaret, your husband protected you better than you realized. Ashley did not know about that meeting. She did not know Martin had already contacted the trust officer. She did not know the South End apartment had gone under contract in 11 days because the market was hot and the buyer was paying cash. She did not know closing had happened Friday afternoon, while she was probably choosing which blouse would make her look most compassionate at brunch. So I let her keep talking. I let her explain how simple my life could become. I let her describe the freedom of having fewer belongings, fewer responsibilities, fewer decisions. Each sentence made the mask slip a little more. Then she pulled out a pen and placed it beside the folder. This does not commit you to anything, she said. It just gives them permission to schedule a tour and discuss financial planning with me present. Lily whispered, Mom, why would Grandma need you there for her money? The silence that followed was the first honest thing at that table. Lily's question did not sound angry. That made it worse for Ashley. It sounded clean, innocent, impossible to twist. My granddaughter was not accusing her mother. She was simply asking why a capable woman who still balanced her checkbook, renewed her own car registration, paid her own property taxes, and drove herself through Charlotte traffic would need someone else sitting in on her financial planning. Ashley blinked once, then twice, and for the first time that morning her smile missed its cue. Sweetheart, this is adult stuff, she said. Lily's shoulders tightened. Grandma is an adult. Claire looked down at her plate. Evan closed his eyes for half a second, the way tired people do when they realize a conversation has finally become what it always was. I kept my hand inside my purse, fingers resting on the edge of the envelope. Not the sign yet. Timing matters. Henry taught me that too, though he used to say it while teaching me how to fish at Lake Norman. You do not pull just because the line moves, he would tell me. You wait until you know what has taken the bait. So I waited. I looked at Ashley and said, Tell me exactly what you want me to sign. She let out a careful breath, relieved to be back on script. It is only a consent form. It lets the community send information to me and coordinate next steps. Next steps toward what? Toward making sure you are taken care of. By moving me out of my house. By helping you transition before there is a crisis. That word again. Crisis. Ashley had been building one out of thin air for months, stacking small claims until they looked like evidence. A forgotten cranberry dish. A spare key. A brochure I never requested. A folder with my name on it. I turned the page and found a printed note in Ashley's handwriting clipped behind the form. Possible sale timeline. Clean out by May. List by June. Use proceeds for care costs. Remainder managed by family. I read the last 3 words silently. Managed by family. Not managed by me. Not protected for me. Family, which in Ashley's language usually meant Ashley. I placed the sheet back down so neatly that its corners aligned with the folder. You already made a timeline for selling my home. Ashley's cheeks colored. I was trying to be prepared. Prepared for my decline? Prepared for reality. I nodded slowly. And what reality is that? She leaned forward, lowering her voice, but not enough. The reality that you are alone in that house, Mom. The reality that you cannot keep pretending Dad is going to walk through the door. The reality that your life would be easier if you stopped clinging to things you do not need. The table went still. Even the soft jazz near the bar seemed to fade behind the clink of silverware from other people's lunches. There it was. Not concern. Not love. Irritation. She was tired of my grief because it stood between her and what she wanted. I looked at her for a long moment, and I did not feel the sharp pain I expected. I felt a door close inside me. Quietly. Firmly. Your father's things are not clutter, I said. My memories are not symptoms. And my house is not an inconvenience for you to solve. Ashley laughed once, short and brittle. This is exactly what I mean. You are being emotional. I took my hand out of my purse and rested it on the table. Empty. Let her think I had reached for nothing. Let her think she had pushed me off balance. No, I said. I am being precise. Then I picked up her pen, turned the consent form toward me, and watched hope flash across her face. She thought I was surrendering because women like me are often mistaken for soft simply because we speak softly. I uncapped the pen, drew one straight line through the signature box, and wrote 3 words across the page. I do not consent. Lily exhaled. Evan looked away, almost smiling. Ashley stared at the paper as if ink had betrayed her. Mom, she said, her voice tightening. Do not make this harder than it has to be. That was when I reached back into my purse and finally touched the small red and white sign waiting beneath the envelope. I pulled the sign from my purse slowly, not because I wanted drama, but because my hands were steady and I wanted Ashley to see that. It was small, no bigger than a greeting card, the kind real estate agents stick in front of a property for photographs after closing. Red letters on a white background. Sold. I placed it beside the brochure, straightened it with 2 fingers, and folded my hands in my lap. For a moment, the 2 items sat there together like evidence from 2 different lives. Her glossy brochure promised to remove me from my home. My sign announced that her home had already slipped out from under her. Ashley stared at it, then gave a thin little laugh. What is this supposed to be? I looked at the brochure first, then at her. A response. Claire's lips parted, but she said nothing. Evan sat very still. Lily leaned closer, her eyes moving over the sign, as if she was trying to solve a riddle before anyone explained it. Ashley shook her head. Mom, this is not funny. No, I said. It is not. I reached into my purse again and took out the envelope from Martin Caldwell's office. I did not hand it to Ashley right away. I set it beside my coffee cup and rested my palm lightly on top of it. Your apartment in South End closed escrow on Friday at 3:45 in the afternoon. Ashley's face emptied so quickly it was almost quiet. No gasp, no outburst. Just the color leaving her cheeks while her mind tried to outrun the words. That is impossible, she said. It was not yours to sell. It was not yours to keep under the conditions you broke. Her eyes snapped toward Evan, as if he had betrayed her by hearing me. You do not know what you are talking about. I opened the envelope and slid out a copy of the trust agreement, the payment history, and the notice Martin had prepared. I had highlighted nothing. I had circled nothing. The papers did not need decoration. Truth usually does not. Your father and I helped you with that apartment after your boutique failed, I said. We did it because you were our daughter, because Lily needed stability, and because you promised you would repay the trust according to the schedule you signed. Ashley reached for the papers, but I did not release them until she stopped pulling. You made 7 payments. Then you stopped. When Martin's office sent reminders, you claimed you were handling medical expenses for me. That was not true. When the trust officer requested documentation, you ignored him. When I asked you about the apartment, you told me everything was fine. Lily whispered, "Mom!" Ashley turned sharply. "Stay out of this." The words came too fast, too cold, and she heard them the same time we did. She looked back at me, trying to recover the soft voice. "I was under pressure. You knew that." "I knew you were under pressure," I said. "I did not know you were using my name to explain missing payments." Evan rubbed a hand over his face. "Ashley, please tell me that part is not true." She did not answer him. That was an answer. I slid another page forward. The agreement also stated that any attempt to coerce me into liquidating my primary residence or transferring financial control would terminate your occupancy rights. I tapped the brochure once. Not hard, just enough. You scheduled a senior living consultation without my consent. You prepared a home sale timeline. You asked me to sign financial access today. Martin considered that enough. Ashley's eyes filled, but not with sorrow, with calculation. "So what? You are throwing me out." "No," I said. "The new owner is giving you 30 days, which is more notice than you planned to give me over Eggs Benedict." Ashley looked at the sold sign as if staring long enough might turn it back into a joke. Her lips moved once before any sound came out. "You had no right." That was the first honest sentence she had spoken all morning, not because it was true, but because it revealed what she believed. Rights belonged to her. Sacrifice belonged to me. She could schedule tours for my future, discuss selling my home, ask for access to my finances, and call it love. But the moment I protected myself with the very papers she had signed, I became the cruel one. I folded the trust agreement and placed it back on the table, not in my purse. Let everyone see it. Let the waiter walking by with a silver coffee pot see it if he wanted to. Ashley had chosen a public table for my humiliation. I had no obligation to hide the consequences in private. "Your father read every line of that agreement before you signed it," I said. "He wanted you housed, not handed a blank check." Her eyes flashed at Henry's name. "Do not bring Dad into this." "He is already in this," I said. "His savings helped buy that apartment. His caution protected this house. His signature is on the trust documents. The only thing he is not here to do is watch you pretend this is my fault." Evan made a quiet sound, almost like a breath he had been holding for years. Claire pushed her chair back slightly, not leaving, just creating distance. Lily sat frozen beside her father, eyes wet but focused on her mother with a look no parent ever wants to earn. Ashley saw it and changed strategies. Her face crumpled carefully at first. "Lily, honey, Grandma is confused. She is upset, and people sometimes do things when they are scared." I looked at my granddaughter before Ashley could build another story around me. "Lily, I am not confused. I met with Martin Caldwell, your grandfather's attorney. I reviewed the documents. I signed nothing today. I sold nothing that belonged to your mother outright. I followed the agreement she signed." Lily nodded slowly. Ashley's tears stopped as quickly as they had arrived. "So where am I supposed to go?" she demanded. There it was again. Not regret. Not apology. Logistics. "You have 30 days to make arrangements," I said. "The same kind of practical planning you wanted for me. I have a child. A 16-year-old who has watched you live in a condo you stopped paying for while telling people I was declining." Ashley's face hardened. "You are enjoying this." I thought about that. The easy answer would have been no. The kind answer. The motherly answer. But I had spent too many years making my words comfortable for people who made my life smaller. "No," I said. "I am not enjoying it. I am surviving it." Evan leaned forward then, his voice low. "Ashley, did you really tell the trust office you were covering medical costs for Margaret?" Ashley stared at him. "This is not your business." "It became my business when Lily has been living inside your version of the truth," Lily whispered. "You told me Grandma needed help remembering bills." The hurt in her voice did what Ashley's performance could not. It made the table feel human again. I reached across and touched Lily's hand. "I remember my bills, sweetheart. I remember everyone. Ashley stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor, and several people turned. She noticed them, straightened her blouse, and lowered her voice into something sharper than a shout. You are going to regret humiliating me. I looked at the brochure, the crossed-out consent form, the sold sign, and the untouched eggs cooling on my plate.
No.
Ashley, I said, I regret trusting you so long that you mistook my patience for permission. I left the sold sign on the table because it had already done its work. The brochure stayed beside it, open to a photograph of a bright dining room full of smiling strangers. For one strange second, I imagined myself there, sitting under cheerful lights while someone else decided when I ate breakfast, when I took walks, when my own house became someone else's investment opportunity. Then I looked at Ashley, standing beside her chair with her purse clutched against her ribs, and the image disappeared. I was not ready to be put away. I was ready to go home. The waiter approached carefully, holding the check folder like it might be the wrong time to breathe. I smiled at him because none of this was his fault, and placed two $20 bills on the table. For my coffee and your trouble, I said. My Eggs Benedict was cold and nearly untouched. That felt fitting. Some meals are not meant to be finished. Claire murmured something about needing to make a phone call and slipped away first. Evan stayed seated, staring at the papers with a tired sadness that made him look older than he was. Ashley did not move. She kept waiting for me to soften, to apologize, to reach for her hand and say we would figure it out because that was what I had always done. When she was 11 and forgot her science project until bedtime, I stayed up cutting poster board. When she was 23 and wrecked her credit, I co-signed a loan. When her marriage started cracking, I watched Lily after school 4 days a week and pretended not to notice the way Ashley stopped saying thank you. My love had been real. That was the part she never understood. Real love is not the same as endless access. I gathered my purse, tucked Martin Caldwell's envelope back inside, and stood. My knees ached a little, as they often did after sitting too long, but I stood straight. Ashley's eyes followed me. Mom, she said, and for one brief second, the word almost sounded like it used to. I turned. Yes. Her mouth trembled, searching for the sentence that might unlock the old version of me, the one who would rescue her from discomfort and call it peace. But all she found was anger. You are choosing a house over your daughter. I looked at Lily, then at Evan, then at the brochure she had brought with my name already tied to a future I had never chosen. No, I said. I am choosing myself before my daughter sells me piece by piece. I walked toward the front of the restaurant, past tables where people were laughing over pancakes and mimosas, past the hostess stand, past the large windows glowing with late morning sun. Outside, the air felt cool for Charlotte, maybe 55 degrees, with a breeze that moved through the trees along the sidewalk. I had taken only 3 steps toward my car when I heard Lily call, Grandma. I stopped. She hurried out, wiping her cheeks with the sleeve of her sweater. For a moment she was 6 again, running across my driveway with scraped knees and a dandelion in her fist. I did not know, she whispered. I know, sweetheart. Are you still going to be at the house? The question nearly broke me, not because it was sad, but because it reminded me what Ashley had almost stolen. Not walls, not furniture, a place where my granddaughter still knew how to find me. I touched her hair gently. Yes, I will be there. She hugged me then, hard and quiet. I held her with one hand and my purse with the other, feeling Henry's ring warm against my finger. Behind the restaurant windows, Ashley remained at the table with her plan in pieces around her. I did not look back for long. Some endings do not need an audience. I drove home through familiar streets, past dogwoods, brick mailboxes, and yards waiting for spring. When I pulled into my driveway, Henry's workshop window caught the sun. The house stood there exactly as I had left it. Not too large, not too quiet, not a burden.
Mine.
My daughter had come to Brunch with a plan to shrink my life into a brochure. She forgot that I had spent 68 years learning how to survive quietly. And quiet women, when pushed far enough, do not always break. Sometimes we close escrow, pay for our own coffee, and drive ourselves home.